Today's intention is going to be talking all about authenticity. We live in a world where so many things are popping up left and right at us, and we don't know how to truly consume the copious amounts of information. And the number one thing that Bobby, you and I have probably learned over the last year as we've gone to know each other through LinkedIn is that being your true self is the only way to live.
Hey, it's Bobby. Welcome to Student of Intention, where we help you enjoy the pursuit of purpose. And remember, don't wait, start small, learn as you go. Hello, friends. Welcome to Student of Intention. I'm your host, Bobby Dysart. This is our little corner of the podcasting world where we spark, strengthen, and support self-discovery. It's just a wonderful afternoon here in the Creative Palace in Irvine. And I'm super stoked to welcome a new friend to the show, a guy by the name of Edward Gorbis. But before we get to Edward, as is customary, I want to share just a little story. I'm actually going to share a new practice that I've tried to start doing regularly, and it's this practice of breaking down a book by way of either a Google Doc or, in this case, a Google Slides, so that I can sort of embody the content of that book a lot more. I'm really focused the rest of the year on embodying some of the books that I read in the first part of the year. And in this particular one, I actually read two books back to back by Ryan Holiday. I read The Obstacle is the Way and Ego is the Enemy. And as I was breaking down Ego is the Enemy on a Google slide, not only did I just love retaking in the information that way and sort of making it part of my psyche, I also stumbled across this quote by Marcus Aurelius that he promotes in the middle section of the book. And I thought it important to call out because I think it speaks well to sort of what I've discovered around the study of intention and what I continue to want to integrate into anything that I do with Student of Intention, whether it be the podcast, the newsletter, or up and coming book, The 5 Buckets. So the quote goes like this: ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. Self-indulgence means tying it to the things that happen to you. Sanity means tying it to your own actions. So, another guy who I think ties sanity, or his well-being, I should say, to his own actions is today's guest, Edward Gorbis. Edward's an enterprise growth leader, crypto enthusiast, business coach, angel investor, startup advisor, keynote speaker, and podcast host. Edward is a lot of things, and I was really excited to dive into his background. Over the past 10 years, he's worked corporate roles in both sales and engineering, also earning both his MBA and master's in civil engineering. He sat front row to WeWork's IPO collapse in 2019 as a senior director of sales. Shortly after, he traveled to South America with his then new wife to reflect and plan his next move, ultimately landing on a simple mission to help people experiencing the same struggle he's encountered his entire life: the immigrant struggle. As with many great missions, it's simple, not easy. I'm excited to hear more about his story, his mission, and of course, his intentions. Edward, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Yes. And I mean, we were talking a little bit about the show. How are you feeling, Edward? If you follow him on LinkedIn, he recently ruptured his Achilles. Is that right?
That's right. I feel good. I mean, I've been pretty fortunate in the sense that we live in a world, at least you and I, where we get to operate most of the time from home. So I get to heal at home, eat good food, take my time to decompress. And fortunately, like you called out, have a very supportive wife to take care of me as well.
Beautiful. Yeah. You look great. You're on the way up. You said you just got the boot off, right?
Got the boot off. No, sorry. I got the cast off. Now I got the boot on. So I got 4 more weeks of this. start some physical therapy. Things are looking up. It's healing well.
I love it. I love it, man. Well, I started the top of the show with a quote by Marcus Aurelius. I also want to start with a quote that I dug out from your website, and it reads, "Your success is inevitable and you are always on the right path. There is more out there for you and you have just barely scratched the surface." I love it. I love it. What do you mean by that?
So oftentimes, and you and I talked about this a little bit on the pre-show, but it's really important to understand that we live in an expansive world, meaning there's always opportunities for people to grow, to learn, to acquire new skills, and most importantly, build new things, right? Mm-hmm. If you think about the evolution, the innovation over the last 200-300 years, that would not have happened without that type of thinking. So I try to capture that in kind of a succinct manner via a few words and explain to people that if you truly commit to self-development, personal growth, it's not a bunch of motivational posts on Instagram or LinkedIn. It's actual work that you can do to make your life better and start building all the things that you want to create in the world.
Yeah, I love that you equate it to building. Now, the first part of it, you're always on the right path. I think that's what caught my eye the most, right? Is even if we're building and we're creating, sometimes there's that little voice in the back of our head that says, is this what I'm meant to be building? Is this what I'm meant to be creating? Did you call that out purposely by saying, hey, you're always on the right path?
Good catch. Absolutely, Bobby. And that's arguably the most important part of it. So look, a lot of people look at the world as binary, or they're taught to think in a binary way. It either works or it doesn't. I succeeded or I failed. It happened or it didn't. That's not the truth. That's the story you're telling yourself. So we get to actively participate in our own thinking. Most people don't. Most people succumb to the information that's provided to them by some social media post, friend telling them something, and worst of all, media influencing how they think, right? So the difference here is that if you truly choose to make a decision, a belief system for yourself that everything is happening for you, which is arguably a more spiritual way of thinking about things, then you are always on the right path. You are always meant to do whatever it is that's happening for you. So if I tore my Achilles heel, there's a reason for that, right? Mm. The truth is, over the last month that I've been recovering, the amount of conversations I've had with random people that I've stumbled across either at a supermarket or a coffee shop when I'm crutching around, they sparked a conversation with me. They had a story to share about their own Achilles heel. I've actually met people where I connected with them, and now it's fostered new opportunities in terms of business, in terms of clients. And it's all because I unfortunately have this centerpiece on my leg right now for people to stare at. So even when it happened, even when I was playing tennis at 6 p.m. on a random Tuesday and I ruptured my Achilles, I was laying on the court just imagining, oh my God, the next 2-3 months, I'm going to have to be in recovery. I might have to get surgery. I still told myself that this happened to me for a reason. I don't know exactly why. And it's just a mindset that I've trained myself to think about over the last few years, where everything does happen for you. You're always on the right path. It will enable you to meet the right people. It will enable you to have the right opportunities. It will enable you to have more creativity in the moment where you can't be doing the things that I consistently was doing when I was living my normal lifestyle. So if you choose, which you can actively choose to do so, is to believe that everything's happening for you, you're always on the right path.
Oof, man, that hits. I love it. I love you even took it down to the injury, to the Achilles, rupturing, to look at that as sort of, almost an advantage, right? Something that was opportunistic for you at this time in your life to give you those connections, those other, that time, to connect with those other relationships and those other opportunities. Like, bravo, man. I mean, that's definitely something I consistently work on with myself is, embracing challenge. You have to be able to accept the quote unquote positives in life as well as the quote unquote negatives in life and take them in stride and and figure out what your next move is based on what sort of the universe presents to you. But easier said than done. You said something really important too, though. You made the distinction that you've trained yourself to get into that mindset. What is training to make sure that you feel sort of empowered by a ruptured Achilles look like?
So I often write about this. I try to dissect it in different ways, but I can really break it down for you right now. You can poke holes in it. You can ask more questions. It's really important to understand that we have the opportunity every single day. I don't care where you are in the world. Unfortunately, if you're in a bad place and in a totalitarian regime somewhere in the Middle East, you still can make these types of decisions. Meaning you get to wake up and you get to make the decision about what you believe, right? Most of the time, people are sleepwalking through life. What does that mean? Is that they have been programmed, they've been conditioned for the first 5 to 7 years of their life. And this has been proven by neuroscience that 95% of our subconscious is actually habituated through all the things that we hear and learn from our parents, from school teachers, from a soccer coach, whoever it might be. All those pieces of information that we heard at a young age essentially show up in our teenage years, in our college years, in our early adulthood, and so forth. And unless we actively participate in reconditioning our brain and what I like to call mindset 2.0, mental fitness, right? It's to really invest time into thinking about, what do I actually want my beliefs to be? Right? Oftentimes people say they're terrified of public speaking. They're not great writers. They're not great at, math. They're not great at sales. They're not great at designing something. They're not good at project management. That's been told to you in some format. So I took a lot of time to read as many possible books and nerd out on metaphysics, neuroscience, spirituality, Buddhism, Western ways of thinking, like everything, and kind of distilled it down in a way that I could actually myself figure out, how do I train my brain just to test it out? And it's worked. And now I get to package it up and send it out to other people and really train my clients as well. And honestly, have conversations with yourself and just share this with the world, because you can do this too. You just have to put in the work, right? People commit to going to the gym. Well, this is the mental gym. And it's actually a lot easier. You get to sit there with yourself probably for about 20 minutes a day and do this work. Because here's the thing. Your beliefs drive how you think every single day. Your thoughts will drive how you feel, right? You have some sort of feeling from that manifests from that thought. That feeling will force you to create some sort of action or inaction, or most of the time people are reacting to what's happening in the world. Then that action will equate to some sort of result, and that result is what reinforces that belief. So that's really important to understand, because ultimately, if you're operating from a place of limiting beliefs, all the things that our teachers, our parents, our friends, the random person at the grocery store that might have said something to you, all those things at a young age will always show up, and you're constantly in this replay mode. That's why I say most people sleepwalk through life. So if you take the time to participate and start to decommission the old way of thinking, introduce new belief patterns, and start to operate through that cycle, you're going to feel more energetic. You're going to feel more empowered. You're going to get better results. You're going to want more better results, and that loop is going to continue. But you got to do the work and actually step out of the noise and sit down and do the work.
Man, you said a lot right there. You actually remind me of the book Mastery of Self by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Yep.
Have you read that?
I have not read it, but it's like on my list of probably 100 books that I need to read.
Well, yeah, in it, he talks about this idea of domestication. And what brought it up is what you talked about is early on in life, you sort of learning the reward system, basically, of like, okay, if I do this, I get told that, right? If I eat past I think in the example in the book, he gives the example of like when you're really, really, really young and your grandma says, eat all your food, and you feel full. At first you say, I don't want to eat, I'm full. And she sort of like baits you by saying, well, you want to be a strong boy, like you should eat your food. And that's not strong enough. So you actually decline that. And then she goes into guilt. She says like, there's tons of starving people, like you need to eat your food. So then you eat past what you're actually full. And you're doing it for the love, or for lack of, guilt out of your grandma's, from your grandma's action, right? From your grandma's words. And that's just like the very beginning seedling of domestication. And then once you get older and you have so many of those experiences, you actually start self-domesticating, where you, create this reward system with yourself. So, I don't know, it made me think about that when you're talking about taking time and space. I think you said it only takes 20 minutes a day, really, to just think about how you want your mindset to work.
Absolutely. It's funny that you brought up the grandmother story, because 100% resonate. And, unfortunately my grandma passed this past March, but, she would always till the end, she was all there with us, like cognitively. And anytime I'd go over to see her, and I was fortunate because she lived nearby, is that she would still, to the last moment, offer me a piece of food. I would say no thank you. She would offer me the next thing, and then she would ultimately always offer me some piece of fruit. Like, fruit's not food. It's still calories. It's obviously good for you, but it's just never ending. And you're so right that type of conversation, especially early at an adolescent age and even younger, it gets habituated into our brain, into our kind of physiology in terms of what we eat, how much we eat, when we eat. And then people are almost kind of victim or suffocated in this way of thinking, and they don't actually know what's going on or why. And then they just say, well, I'm hungry, or I'm always hungry. I have no idea why I'm always hungry. You never actually took the time to ask yourself why you're always hungry. Like, first principles is really important to understand and go 5 whys deep, right? That's kind of what the engineering brain in me always likes to ask, is why? Why do these things actually happen? And if you even go that deep with yourself, you'll start to uncover things that you probably never even knew. I'm not here to replace Western therapy, but you can kind of do it on yourself as well. Well,
I mean, just starting and just taking the time, for sure is going to get you somewhere, right? Just acknowledging the space, to be able to impact your mindset, and doing some of the practices that you reference and that are easily available online, right? Can make a huge impact.
Absolutely.
So I want to go back to your sort of before you, I think you were so set on this journey and so confident, right? Like, you clearly drink your own Kool-Aid, right? Like, you clearly practice this stuff quite a bit, and you're very educated. You're well practiced in, both enterprise sales and engineering work. Before we kind of take a trip back in time, like, I'm always interested to know, like, okay, what's like the up to the latest, like, stuff Edward is working on, right? Cause it's a never ending loop, right? Like, even as I think as trained and as practiced as you are, somebody who can see the good value out of a pretty tough injury, right? Like an Achilles rupture, has quote unquote made it pretty far, but I'm sure you still look at yourself as like a student in a lot of ways. What's every day look like? What are some of the things that you're practicing and you're working on literally up to the minute right now?
Good question. Getting real honest right now, like you said just now, is I believe everyone is both a student for life and a teacher for life, right? Everyone has something to teach. Everyone has something to learn. And that is kind of my general belief system, right? If I'm practicing what I actually preach, I spend the time to go through my own belief system, do the mental fitness work in the morning. My physical fitness routine has changed just a little bit given the Achilles tear, but outside of that, look, I've been fortunate. I'm still figuring things out from like a business perspective, but my intention with building out my coaching practice was to work with no more than 10 people at once, really give myself the flexibility, as you alluded to learn new things, to do other things, to diversify, run my own podcast, and create more courses, create more guides, figure out new things. One of the things that you alluded to earlier that I'm super, super passionate about is cryptocurrency and blockchain and decentralization. And not just because of Bitcoin price action, but really understanding again, why was this created? Why does this technology exist? And I got fascinated with it back in 2017, which many people say was the last bull run prior to this current one that we're in. And yes, for a lot of people, the price action gets interesting, but for me, it was just, why does this technology exist? So what I spent a lot of time recently on is, and I've been doing this for the last few years, but now I'm trying to put it more publicly facing into content around helping kind of demystify and educate people around both crypto, blockchain, and the driver for me is I have no interest. I'm not Elon Musk. I have no way of pumping the price, but I really want people to understand the value. I want people to get in early and understand. I don't actually care if you buy Bitcoin. I want people to understand what it is and why it works and why it's here to stay and why it's going to be a central part of how we conduct business for probably the rest of our lifetime as it relates to not just a financial policy, but also around just general security, information transaction, limitation on government control, et cetera, et cetera. Those are such important things for people to learn. Just because it's not pumped out by CNN or MSNBC does not mean we should not be learning about it. So I'm doing as much homework as I can on my end to make sure I feel at least 10% more informed than the next person so that I can start really educating people more holistically.
Man, that is a deep hole, going down the cryptocurrency hole and the Bitcoin hole. And how long have you been? I think you said you started learning about it in 2017. Is that right?
That's right. That's kind of when I got into it.
Yeah.
And then at that point I said, okay, if I'm going to make any sort of investment to this asset, I have to understand what it is. And like you said, it can be a never ending hole in a good way. There's so much good to learn from it and there's so much to understand. And the technology is what really got me hooked in, right? What does transparency mean? What does decentralization mean? What is security? What does encryption mean? Like all of those things really excite me because I just enjoy learning things, and understanding obviously how broader macroeconomics, politics work. I know this is something that the average human being needs. And this is why we're going to continuously see a massive kind of government push or subpoenas against a lot of crypto companies, is because they don't want this to actually succeed and thrive.
Well, I can't take the bait on that one, man. We could talk about that forever. But that's great. I love that you're at minimum educating yourself on an asset that you choose to invest in. I think we could all, take that advice for sure.
That's the only subtle financial advice that I'll give, is actually educate yourself.
That's good. That's good. So yeah, I guess I just want to go back in time a little bit, and I actually bring it up with your LinkedIn post because, like a few of the other guests we've had on the last couple pods, you and I did connect on LinkedIn. You're very active on there, and I love this post that you sent 2 days ago. Apparently, a lot of other people liked it too. Yeah, I think you got like 407 likes. But it's titled 23 Things I Would Tell My 23-year-old self. So you said things like, I'm not going to read all 23, but even just the number one's pretty dope, right? Smile. You had a 1 in 4 trillion chance of being born. Number 8, optimistic people are rare. Glue yourself to them. Number 14, entrepreneurship isn't the answer. Getting along with people is. 16, hard work is all in the mind. 20 will say is treat people in the way they want to be treated. And 23, community is everything. So, yeah, I guess I'm just bringing that up because I assume that you're saying you'd want to tell your 23-year-old self all these things because maybe you didn't know these things or you didn't realize these things at 23. What's some of your story, I guess, from that period of your life and kind of coming to where you are now?
It's a good question. I'll frame it slightly differently and add a little bit more context, partly because I think it's important to know that I was actually born in Ukraine. I was born at the time, it was still the former Soviet Union, although I don't remember anything. And the importance of that is I immigrated to the United States when I was about 5. My parents afforded this incredible lifestyle for me. Again, they came here with $200. They didn't have any money. They worked extremely hard. Classic immigrant story where they put in the time, did the work, and enabled me to have a future that I obviously would have never had living in Ukraine still. And it's important to understand that because a lot of immigrant parents bring their kids to the States because they just want them to escape some sort of government regime or some sort of political nightmare, or there's not a lot of opportunities to actually go to school. There's not enough food. There's not enough money, right? Like all of those things. You leave a country for a reason. You're hoping that the place you go to is somewhat better. It does actually not matter if you move from Irvine, California to New York City or to San Francisco or vice versa. Like you're moving for a reason. The difference is that even though my parents did that, their focus was survival for a good period of time when we moved here. It wasn't about thriving. It wasn't about how to develop an unbreakable mindset. It wasn't about how to be successful in the corporate workplace or to climb the corporate jungle gym. Like that's not what it was about. It was purely around survival, and they did everything, and I'm an only child, and I'm super, super grateful for everything they did. But I think when I stepped out of college and I was around 22, I got my first job. Then eventually after 1 year, I decided I have to get a master's in civil engineering degree. More specifically, I convinced myself that I need to get a master's in earthquake engineering because I thought I was going to do seismic design. That was something I convinced myself. And at 23, I went to UCLA to pursue a 1-year kind of hyper aggressive master's program. There were 8 people picked out of 230 applicants. And for me, just accomplishing that was a huge win. Mm. About 9 years later, I'm 32 now. I'm not shy about my age. What I realize is that I was focused on something so hyper-focused on one specific thing. And I had convinced myself at the time that's what matters most. So that was kind of the driver for the post. That's why I specifically chose that age, is because, look, the world's extremely different. Obviously, the last 18 months throughout the pandemic has taken a massive toll on different people in so many different ways. We can't even, we'll never have the time to discuss that. But for college graduates, I'm hoping that as my platform expands, as more people like yourself talk about these things, and I'm glad you enjoy the post, is that they understand these are the things that I now understand truly matter. You don't need to incorporate or inherit or digest all of them today, but understand at some point, if you're awake and you're conscious and you're really thinking about what's happening in front of you, you're going to have some flavor of all of these throughout your life. And you're going to somehow learn to appreciate some version of them as well. So that's kind of where the driver came from. And I think for a lot of people who I work with who have either kind of an immigrant background, first gen background, who've been around kind of an immigrant mentality, they understand that, yes, these are the things that actually help move your life forward. They move business opportunities. They create great relationships. They make you a great leader. And that's what most people, I think, want to achieve. They oftentimes are just missing the actual system or formula or process to get there. So it was my attempt to share what I wish I would have actually known at the time versus what I thought was important.
Right. No, it's awesome. And so you're framing it as this is kind of a recent awareness, I would imagine, like over the last, year? You sort of.
Probably at the start of COVID, I started kind of gathering little Post-it notes for myself of these are the minor reminders that matter.
Right. Right. And I guess go back to the beginning of just even your trek into your own business, which that started in 2020?
Started in early 2020.
Yeah. Now, what was like your first intentions there? Cause you've had a pretty interesting path, right? Like you just talked about that master's in engineering, which was no easy feat, I'm sure. And like, that is a very distinct track. You go get that degree. You're charging down a track, and then you veered off that course, into the sales world. And then now you've sort of veered again, into, I guess, consulting and coaching, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. So for me, I realized after I decided that engineering and especially the civil engineering world was not for me is that I want to fundamentally acquire as many skills as I can so that eventually I could start my own business. Right. So yeah, I enjoyed all those opportunities working at a couple of different SaaS companies, working at WeWork while it was on a rocket ship and then falling back to earth. Most people got off safely, but essentially for me, it was intentional that I wanted to learn as much as possible. It wasn't necessarily that I want to work in corporate forever. It was really that, okay, I want to spend the next 5 years acquiring every business skill that I realized an MBA didn't even afford me, is to put into practice so that when I start my business, I can actually operate efficiently, right? I can figure out what is the right strategy, what is the right sales approach, how do I get clients? And the truth is, most of my experience has been really in the enterprise world. Complex selling, lots of relationships. It takes a long time to close one deal. And what I'm doing with working one-on-one with clients, it's more of the B2C approach, right? I post a lot of content. I create a lot of content as well. And that's the hope, is that I can hopefully attract people to have a conversation and to help solve whatever it is they perceive as a problem, right? And have a conversation about how do we create a process that is for you, developed essentially by you, and then you buy into it and then you start executing, right? Like that's the goal. So I've always enjoyed helping people. I've always enjoyed mentoring, coaching, facilitating. Like it's just been a natural thing that's always popped up in my life, probably since I was even in 5th grade. Like I was a crossing guard in my 5th grade class and I was super proud of it. And I knew I was helping people. Like helping people has always been a consistent theme in my life. So I just really knew that I was going to take things down that pathway, especially as I acquired more business skills. And then when I launched the business, it was really about what's the plan? How much time is it going to take to land my first client? What are my own personal sales goals? How do I achieve those goals? And it was not easy, right? Like nobody wakes up, and anybody telling you that starting a business is easy is lying to you.
I think that's right.
So, and it's still not easy, right? Like some months are great, others aren't, right? Like you have to be okay with the ebb and flow of cash flow. If I wanted to, like I could probably in due time start some sort of subscription model, which will help with cash flow. And that's the ultimate goal, but I know I'm just not there yet. Or maybe it's a story I'm telling myself, but it's really about being clear about what your long-term goals are. My goals, even at 25, when I decided I'm going to pivot away from engineering, was I know I'm going to start a business one day. So I need all the skills I can gather and connect with as many people as I can to know how to operate this thing holistically. Because I believe that if I ever run my own business, whether it's a solopreneur business or start a true kind of larger scale company, you have to know how to operate within every single hat, right? I've done engineering. I've done some semblance of kind of product and project management. I've done kind of post-sales environment. I've done the sales environment. I've done the leadership environment. Yes, I've not done every little thing. I surely have not done marketing, and that's something I'm learning right now. But those are all critical elements that I wanted to pick up along the way. So that's essentially what I want to do, is give myself, yes, I also got an MBA, but honestly, the work itself was more valuable than the MBA.
I feel like you feel that way about a lot of things.
Yeah. Highly advise against MBAs.
Really? As a person with an MBA, highly advise against them. It's one thing for me to advise against an MBA, but a person who has one, you don't hear that often.
Yeah. I will definitely advise against it. And I think the truth is, unless you're trying to become a certified professional, whether it be a lawyer, doctor, I wouldn't even say a financial advisor needs to be certified, but the laws will tell you otherwise. Everything else you can learn online.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And so at a basic level, in the most simplest level, you do one-on-one coaching as your predominant business. Is that right?
That's right. Kind of high ticket coaching.
Great. And how, so year and some change in, you obviously have this sort of, can I call it a side interest in crypto?
Yeah.
And you have your podcast, you have, do you have anything else? I feel like you have some more things.
I recently launched. I'm not really monetizing it quite yet, but I launched a new newsletter called Crypto Mastery.
Mm.
So,
How are you balance? I guess I'm just asking, how are you balancing these things? And like, how are you saying this is where I want to spend my energy? This is where I don't want to spend my energy. And how much of it is just you sort of being curious?
yeah, so there's definitely discipline involved into it. I like to break up my day into blocks, right? So part of my day, I'll be hyper focused on writing content. Part of my day, part of my week will be on content creation with podcasts or anything else a little bit grander than just writing, right? So there's writing blocks. There's actual kind of networking blocks, which involve podcasting, just meetings, etc. And then there's times and days where I spent just working with clients. And it actually has been proven that it helps your brain stay in a particular flow, particular energy. Because if you try to do 15-minute increments or bounce around from thing to thing and scroll up and down on different items that have nothing to do with one another, you're going to be dramatically less efficient with your time. So that's how I operate in terms of making decisions. It's just really about being honest with yourself. Right. Oftentimes, yes, I understand people need to work for money and trust me, I still need to. I'm not in a financially independent position, but I try to look at things holistically. I understand my ins and my outs, right? Like at the end of the day, you operate your life like you would operate a business in terms of you are the CEO of your life. And you have to think about it that way as well. And you have to create a strategy for how you're going to show up every single day. And not just stumble through it or sleepwalk through the day. And I have those moments. We're human. But we need an outlet. We need tools to get ourselves out of it. And that's, again, what I help teach a lot of people is how do you actually implement those tools into your life and go about your day in an effective manner where you know you're creating what you want and you dedicate time towards the action that's actually going to move the needle towards whatever it is you want to create. And that's why, like I said, 20 minutes in the morning, that's where I've created my own practice into setting my intentions, which is what I love what you do with this podcast, and actually take the time to write down what are my beliefs, what are a lot of the decisions that I know are to be true for myself, ground myself in gratitude. From there, I kind of build off and ask myself, what do I want to achieve today? What do I want to accomplish? Then I ask myself the questions of what do I need to do to accomplish those things? And then I take the action and then I get the results that I want. That is the simple formula. Obviously, there's more details to it, but that's essentially what I do every single day. And from there, I figure out, okay, these are in alignment. These are not. I have to say no to these things. If somebody else asks me a random question and they ask me to come on a podcast, they ask me to do something today. If you're trying to sell me something on LinkedIn, I will never respond. It serves zero purpose to anyone. So do not spam human beings. But outside of that, if you're a genuine human being, I might not be able to connect tomorrow or today. But if you come in with the right intention, with good purpose, with some thoughtfulness, I will most likely figure out how to provide some time and carve it out and be present, right? And just have a conversation with you like we are today, Bobby, which is just having a conversation and learning from one another and being present. So to me, all of that work, everything I've learned over the last few years has enabled me to build blocks throughout my day, throughout my week, throughout my month, and really strategize how am I going to be efficient? How am I actually going to drive value? And then essentially, how is I going to convert to money?
Simply stated, man. It's so crazy how like simple it really is, right? Like the things that you're speaking from your mouth, right? Like sit down, talk about what I want to get done for the day, think about how I want to get it done, and follow through with it. And then voila, like you stack that up over, weeks, let alone months or years, you're going to get the results that you want.
I will add this is that your greatest enemy is your smartphone.
I don't disagree. Tell me more.
So obviously that's the hook, the headline, but the importance is that our iPhones essentially have conditioned us to only care about the dopamine hit. right? It's to scroll, find something, get a like, get a text, get an email. Literally, people get excited now, and you have a dopamine spike from any email that comes through. Even if you don't care about the fact that it's a marketing email or spam or some other crap that pops up, people just get a dopamine hit. It does not serve you. What I want people to crave is a self-created dopamine hit. And that only happens.
Dopamine hit?
What I mean by that is you take a continuous amount of action. And when you finally land that first client, when you finally get that big promotion, when you finally start your business or start getting traction as a content creator, I literally don't care what you have decided. You have enabled your own dopamine hit. You're not going fishing for an immediate one. That's short-lived. It doesn't give you any sort of satisfaction. It reinforces nothing, except you're on this personal hamster wheel where you're never able to get off. And that's why people aren't actually doing anything or creating, is they get stuck. And I think the phone is the fundamental thing that's hurting most people.
Yeah, I mean, it's a delayed gratification in general is, I think, a lost art, a lost feeling.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah, and I really like how you phrase it. I mean, these sort of creating our own dopamine hits by instilling goals, right? Instilling projects, whether it's, creative, whether it's entrepreneurial, whether it's, health wise, et cetera, or, better yet, all three. That's certainly been a big part of my world. And like, I was just talking to my friend Ash, before this podcast about, from like an outcome perspective, my life hasn't changed a whole bunch from this year to last year. Last year I was, predominantly focused on sales consulting, and sales consulting in my world is, more B2B sales, building sales teams at early stage companies. And I was really busy last year. And this year I'm actually less busy because I've been writing a book for the last year and, installing the podcast, installing the newsletter, and sort of trying to develop this other side of me. But from like an outcome perspective, right? Like bank account looks about the same. I'm still relatively doing the same type of stuff from a work perspective, but man, like day to day and discipline and those dopamine hits, like all time high. I mean, just podcasts are really funny. I didn't learn this until I started a podcast, but a lot of people start podcasts. They don't keep them going. You start to learn a lot about how quickly people fizzle out on podcasts or newsletters or all those things. And now I've sort of created my own system to give me those dopamine hits. And it's I've never heard it put that way. I think it's really interesting. And something we definitely do more of. How's your phone set up though? Do you have like no notifications? I
have no email notifications, no social media notifications. I have literally one app. I don't even remember the name of it, but it's basically like motivational quotes. And it literally pumps them out, maybe even too often, probably like every 2 hours. It'll just pop up with something kind of inspirational. But I do that intentionally, right? Like that was an intentional decision. It's not because they get me high. It's because they give me a little bit of a dopamine hit with high energy. They're reminding me of why I'm doing everything. Sometimes they don't necessarily resonate. Okay, I wasted half a second reading this. But for me, it's really important to get those things. But that was an intentional design. Every other notification, including text, is turned off. I'll get to the text when they matter, not when somebody texts me. So if I'm in the middle of a working block, for example, I'll get to that text later. Because look, everybody in my life knows that matters, that if you really need to get a hold of me, call me twice, I'll pick up the phone. Just call me back to back and I know exactly what's going on. That's basically, I've proactively told everyone in my life. Call me once and I'm busy, I probably don't think it's important. You call me a second time, I'll pick up. And it's just really important to understand that you got to create these types of boundary conditions in your life and protect your own time and protect your own sanity. And that will free up so much energy. right? We wake up, we have a certain amount of energy, and some people deplete all of it within 2 hours. Some people never deplete any of it. They just go to sleep, and they probably could have accomplished 100 other things that day. They just wasted their time doing other things, or they got distracted. So creating those boundary conditions is going to fundamentally differentiate how much you accomplish. And it sounds like, Bobby, you've done that for yourself over the last year. You're going to get that gratification, I don't know, whenever you launch your book, whenever you get the sales, whenever you have a flood of emails from prospective clients once they read your book. Like, that is going to be this incredible reward. You could obviously be waiting for something else in the interim, but it's just not as gratifying as that big monumental piece of work that you've been working on.
For sure. For sure. And I think you got to do it from both sides. Like, you're absolutely right on the phone piece. And that was something I did sort of ad hoc. Like, I turned off all my notifications, sort of just like, let's give this thing a try. I think I watched that documentary on Netflix about evil social media. And so I was like, they're saying this is a big deal. Let's turn it off. And I kind of forgot about it. And now it's crazy how much I don't realize how, like, I don't even remember how much I was interrupted, unless I see other people getting interrupted by their phone, which does happen quite a bit.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, only they are benefiting. The more data you put in, the more ads they can sell and the more money they can make. That's right.
That's right. Well, I want to bring it to, so this gets into a little bit of the mystical side of intention, as for lack of a better word. But when I break down living with intention, I break it down into 3 phases. It starts off with action. Then you get into a period of discovery, and then you get into a period of what I call alignment. And alignment, everything I read lately, I don't know if this is just the stuff that I read that just keeps reinforcing this idea, or if there's just that many people that are on the idea, but, or that have that similar sort of view, that there's basically, there's the universe, there's God, there's, whatever you want to call it, this connected tissue, between all of humanity and life that creates, this energy field that you can kind of plug into. And when we do the things that are representative of our authentic self, we tend to let the universe, let God, let every, all this energy field, right? Sort of let it be known what is important to us, and help kind of comes to our aid, right? Like, things just start to show up. I'm curious, particularly over the last year, like, it sounds like you've been very, very intentional, right? How you line up your day, turn off your notifications, right? Starting your business, starting your podcast now, some of the educational pursuits around crypto. Do you have any real examples of, like, where you basically were rewarded for all the work that you're doing, or something sort of unexpectedly, kind of dropped in your lap, by it being an opportunity, a person, what have you?
Absolutely. So what you're talking about is really, it matters how you show up in the world, right? Call it laws of attraction, call it spirituality, call it the universe, call it God. Don't really care what you believe in. The fundamental truth, and I think one of the few things that humans can agree on, is that energy is neither created nor destroyed. So if you believe in Newton's kind of laws of physics, and that truth is that everything we do attracts a certain energy. And what ends up happening is every word we speak, the connotation behind it, there's energetics to it. There's positive words, there's negative words. There's positive thinking, there's negative thinking. There's positive action, there's negative action, right? Like, those are a culmination of energy. Mm-hmm. So let's ground ourselves there. From there, once I truly understood that meaning, I realized that if I put out good energy into the world in whatever medium I want to put it into, right? Energy has to travel through a medium, then things will start to show up on the other end. So you asked for an example. The basic one that I think maybe we should make a LinkedIn course around this is not so much how to create the structure, find your niche and all those things. It's why energetics work within LinkedIn, right? So for example, I've been putting out a ton of content about honestly just being real, being authentic, being true to yourself. Here are the things that I've learned that I think if you implement into your life, you will genuinely enrich it. That is my intent. I'm not here to be malicious. I don't care about, as much as I have opinions about geopolitics and social things, like I tend to try to not to write about them because I'm not here to be divisive. That was never my intention. I get that being divisive in marketing sells. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to attract a certain type of human being into my life and curate the environment that I live in so I can experience life in a relatively more positive, more uplifting, high energy, this great energetic state where you can create more, where you can produce more, where you can have more ideas and you welcome new ideas. So I did that. I started to create that content. And what did that lead to? First of all, the easiest example is you and I would not have connected. We would not have had this opportunity. But the truth is, when I started my business, I also knew not only should I want to, because I genuinely enjoy networking, should I start a podcast, but I wanted to hopefully get into more speaking engagements, jump on more people's podcasts so I can spread the word about how I think, how I operate. And hopefully through just being genuine, people will realize that I can actually help them. And I know one size does not fit all. There's a million different types of coaches and you have to align with the right person. I'm not here to oversell people. I'm here to tell you the actual truth and the harsh reality that sometimes most people don't want to face. That is kind of the energy, the vibe that I create. What that has led to is either people popping up from my past who now align with that type of thinking that I've reconnected with, and it's led to more business opportunities. It's led to speaking at their own company, getting paid for those engagements. That's one example. The other example is truthfully, when I applied to college, I didn't get into any university except one state school. I ended up having to appeal to get into UC Davis despite having great accolades, great GPA, great SAT score. And I was really disappointed. I share that because getting into UCLA, getting into a graduate school that I revered was a huge focal point to me and something that I'm proud of even to this day. I bring that up because fast forward, if you go to UCLA's career website, I'm one of their featured coaches. The only reason that happened is not because I reached out to them, is because they actually started seeing my content somehow through the UCLA world, through the world of LinkedIn, just through putting out positive content. Somebody actually looking at what I do today, it connected all those dots back where I'm actually giving a talk to, I think about 700, 800 people in a couple of weeks, that are now UCLA alumni. But that entire opportunity created itself just by putting out positive energy through content, through enough people seeing it, through consistency. And now I get that opportunity. And the truth is, same story, kind of like with the Achilles heel. If you show up the right way, people will ask you the right questions. Maybe I go to this event, maybe it lands clients, maybe it lands the next speaking engagement. Maybe somebody remembers me and starts following my content, and then a year from now, they hit me up to become a client, or they lead to another opportunity. Everything we do, all the energy that we create and emanate from our own body will start to show up for us. And the truth is, most people at some point in their life have had this feeling of, oh my God, everything is going right. Everything is in alignment. Everything feels good. And then it dissipates. And then they have no idea how to recreate it, how to get it back. And then maybe it shows up 3 months or 3 years later. For me, I realized that the way to truly get that more consistently and to get those higher moments of euphoria when everything just feels like it's going right, despite truthfully 21, like on a personal level with all the shit that's been bombarded in my life, excuse the language, but it's really not been an easy personal year, but I've still been able to land a lot of opportunities that just because I grounded myself in everything that I believe and show up consistently, nothing has changed in the type of content that I write. If anything, I've become more authentic. I have no shame in writing about the personal trauma that I've had to endure. I also know it's temporary, but the energy is consistent. It's still with the intention of actually being good and pure and showing up and helping and inspiring. And I get messages that make me incredibly happy and grateful. They're sad messages in the sense that somebody will say, thank you for sharing that and being raw and open. I don't have a massive following, but whatever, it grows weekly. And essentially they said, thank you. It means so much that you can openly write about somebody passing away in your life on this platform. My grandmother actually also died this year, and they went into their story and it made them feel a little bit more whole. They even called it a little bit of therapy. And it was just nice to see that you can help people without any ask, right? There's no hook on the end for me when I throw out a post into the world. Now they take me maybe 5 to 10 minutes to write once I have an idea, and really just throw it out into the world. And my hope is that I can help maybe 5, 10 people. They don't need to respond. They don't need a comment. I've had people actually message me and say, I never comment or like your post, but they mean a lot to me. And that oftentimes is more meaningful than people hitting the like button. So I'm just doing it to put out good into the world. And that's really the difference in content creation when you're building a business. When you're doing it with pure, genuine hope, inspiration, purpose, you're going to create something incredible. And you don't even need to monetize it right away. You could just create content literally for 2-3 years with one pure intention, whatever that intention is for you. And I assure you, people will come to you and start asking you questions that you might have never even thought of. And that might give you clarity on the business that you could build and the course that you could build or a service that you can offer. And that will create new opportunities. All you have to do is set a clear and valuable purpose and intention in life and just chart that course. Things will happen along the way. Your life isn't linear. We all know that, and the last year has proven that. But understand that if you go clearly, which I intended to do when I first started my business, is to be pure, raw, honest, authentic, all the things I never felt I could be in the corporate world because of the boundary conditions that the corporate environment creates, it kind of freed me. And that's why the intention with this entire podcast was authenticity.
Man, I could listen to you all day, brother. That was awesome. I mean, and talk about examples of alignment. Just, you're 100% right. Like, LinkedIn in particular, I think is a great example of just this sort of unconditional love, really, that you're putting out into the world. And over time, you just see it sort of pick up steam, resonate with different people, cure people in a lot of ways. And like you said, if it's 5, 10 people, it doesn't really matter. And man, bravo, you're really taking the long game approach on it all. And to do it in a tough year and to sort of just lean into, you even said it sort of actually motivated you to even go more real, more authentic, more positive. Man, we could all learn from that. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Well, like I said, I could listen to you all day, but, we probably got to wrap this thing soon. What's just the up to the minute latest on all things business and where you're going to go next? And people, and I want people to be able to engage with you on LinkedIn. Otherwise, I mean, I'll put your LinkedIn in the notes, but is there something that, people should point to, we should point people to first before LinkedIn?
You can always find me on LinkedIn. Obviously check out my business at careermeetsworld.com. I spend a lot of time there in terms of just connecting with people. If you're interested in services, products, just reach out to me. And again, always trying to support people in the right way. But I ask for 3 things of people when they reach out to me is 1, be resourceful, be committed, and be coachable, right? If you're neither of those things, then it's not going to be fun for us to work together. And honestly, I like connecting with people that are all 3 because I try to be all 3 as well. If we network together, I'll try to provide you more resources, more contacts, more information, and be supportive. And whether it's reaching out to me or anyone else, I recommend you use that approach as well. So
that's
love connecting with
that's committed and
coachable.
Man. All right. Beautiful, brother. Well, anything before we jump?
No, I appreciate this. I mean, for me, the rest of the year, like you just asked, is going to be about how do I really support. I've been also spending a lot of time helping founders develop just not only their personal development strategy, but also their growth strategy. So I just enjoy consulting in different ways, right? I think for me, it's not always about I need to be an expert. I need to help you understand how to tap into the right resources. So that's what I try to do and be here for people. And again, I love connecting with people. So stay authentic, stay real. That's all I can ask for.
We'll do our best, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, it's Bobby. Thanks for listening to today's show. For more, follow Student of Intention at www.studentofintention.com. And remember, don't wait, start small, learn as you go.